All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mills Knows Bills podcast. I am Mills Bender, the host, founder, and CEO of MKB. With us today, we have two of our financial coaches. We have Chase Garrett and Steffany Medina. And today we're going to be talking about mastering your money. So, yes, we do have Thomas today. He did not want to go down for his nap. It's okay. We get to be flexible today. So you're going to hear some hiccups, maybe a couple screeches, but that's okay. So in the topic of mastering your money, why don't we kick this off with talking about our favorite aspects of mastering your money? I'll kick it off, and then Steffany, you can go, and then Chase. So for me, I think there's a common misconception that, you know, you just wake up one day and you're automatically good with money. And then there's another misconception layered with that in the fact that budgeting is just this fun thing to do. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't really love the act of budgeting. I love the results that budgeting gets me, but sitting there looking over my numbers every so often, let's be honest, it's not fun unless you mess with Excel and money. But the act of being intentional with categorizing your finances is not the most fun thing out there. Do you guys agree, disagree?
No, I agree 100%. It's not the easiest, but it's like once you get the hang of it, it's like, man, this is actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's like a game. So like one of the things that I've told my siblings and a lot of people that are close to me, it's like, let's gamify this, right? Like it's just like a role player game, and you have to get like max points so that you can get to the next level. And I've taken that mentality when it comes to like my finances.
Yes.
And so you just kind of going along for the journey. You pick up the tools like Excel, like learning how to budget, just so that your character can become overpowered. It's
like an ability.
Yes, it's like
the next level,
new ability unlocked.
New financial milestone. Check.
Yes. And just like give yourself a star.
Man, I wish Brett was here today because he talks about gamifying sales and finding people too. And it's true, when you gamify things, it makes it a little bit more fun. But I'm curious to hear from you, Steffany, first. What's your favorite part about mastering your money, or your one thing?
Oh, my one thing I would definitely say is the debt elimination.
Yes.
I think all of you both know.
Yes.
It was one of those things where I didn't have a name for it. Now we kind of think of like stacking method, or the snowball method and all of that. But when I was at a point where I was looking at my debts and I was realizing I do not make that number annually. I don't even make that number annually. How am I going to pay this off? It just came to the point where I was like, I have to come up with a strategy.
Yeah. So
it was like piecing together a puzzle, just playing around with it. But then I later found out, obviously money has implications in your life, right? You have a monthly budget. You have to figure out how it's going to work.
Right.
It became so much more than just that, I'll figure it out strategy thinking. I started to see this is actually forging like discipline.
Yes.
Or this is now a habit that I've formed.
I love that.
And it shaped other ways that I thought of, if I'm able to go ahead and pay off this debt in X amount of time, what else could I possibly achieve with a similar mindset, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's like kind of taking what I just mentioned, like about like gamifying things, but it also shaped kind of like my mentality towards other goals that I might reach.
I think a lot of people put finances in its own box. And I want to highlight what you said. It changed other areas of your life, other disciplines, other mindsets. We naturally attract a lot of people who enjoy taking care of their physical wellness because it's the same mindset. It's not like we're looking for people, you go to the gym, check, you can come over here and work with us. It's just a very similar mindset, as you said, and the discipline it takes to pay off your debt, the discipline it takes to sit down and budget, invest, whatever it is it's across the board. You can't improve certain aspects of your life and without thinking that it's gonna, impact other areas for the positive too.
I love that. And It's actually, that's my favorite part is I believe like when you're mastering your money, you're really just mastering yourself.
Yes.
Right. So, you've probably heard the quote, money doesn't change people. If anything, it enhances people.
I love that one.
And so, going through my financial journey, as I guess, like you said, gamify, as I like upgrade to level 2, then 3, and, now I'm on like 5, and I'm like, man, I want to get to 10. It's like, reality, I'm just really mastering myself because I notice, the habits that I make time for are naturally not only one, increasing my productivity, but it's increasing the lifestyle that I want that only enhances, like, okay, I don't only want to get on top of my finances, but I want to learn so much about it that I can help others get on top of theirs.
Absolutely.
Right? And I love this, as you're going through the program, it really makes you think like, hey, when you're growing up through the program, they ask you like, how is money talked about in your household?
Yep.
Right? So it makes you think like, how was it perceived from them and how did it enhance them? It wasn't how did money change that person.
Right.
Growing up, I'll be quick about it, but I remember seeing people with money, and since I was a blue-collar, worker, and both my parents were, money was one of those things where, like, you worked hourly to pay bills, and you saved to take one vacation every, like, 5 years.
Yeah.
And so, like, people, when I'd see them take vacations, year after year after year, I'm like, well, how is that? How did they get there? In reality, they mastered that lifestyle they wanted.
Right.
Right. And so it enhanced them to be able to do that. And I think that's my favorite part of the Master Your Money program.
I love it. And I think, you guys are both dropping knowledge bombs today. One thing that you mentioned without really coming out and just saying, finances is not a one and done deal. Mm-hmm. You level up. It's a financial journey. There are still aspects that I want to master. There are still aspects that I know Steffany's working on and you're working on. It's a journey that we get to take, and it's not like we just make it.
Yep.
There are levels in terms of, this is what I need to get in order to reach my version of financial freedom. But there's always learning involved. There's always next steps you get to make. There's always obstacles that come up that you get to overcome. And I think it's really cool that, you have looked at the obstacles placed in your life and you've said to yourself, I'm going to figure out how to circumvent this, and I'm going to figure out how to change how I think about money, how I talk about money. So one day when I have kids, they have a different way of perceiving it, and they can level up and start at a higher level than I started too. It's all about creating this generational wealth so that way the next generation doesn't need to work as hard, not because they're going to be spoiled, but because they get to start at a point that, a higher than we started at, and I get to start at a point higher than my parents started at, and so on and so forth, which I think is really, really cool.
I love, like, going back to the gamify. I think that's something that kind of like kickstarted my brain. It's like when we finally get to the position of having that next generation that we started, it's like they get to almost start with tools that we found along our journey.
Yes.
Instead of us finding, because I love both my parents to death, but they're not financially free to where they want to be. They're still working at it, right? And so when I came into the game, like, I had little tools, but it was from the experience they gathered. And it's like my journey is so important to me because it isn't my journey. It's my children's journey, right? And it's like the more I learn about it, the more that I master that journey, it's the more tools that I can almost say, hey, let me help you with this. Here's what I've gathered. And now they almost start with like level 3 instead of level 1.
Exactly. We talk a lot about the Master Your Money program here at MKB, but I want to hear from you two, knowing me and Steffany, you've been around a lot longer. Why do you think I chose the word master your money as opposed to control or figure it out or anything else?
Because the master is always a student.
That is so good. I love that. The greatest teacher is the greatest student. That's like the big job.
There's always something to learn. And like when it's just kind of like thinking about it when you're starting at your financial journey. You mentioned it, like it enhances you, like something that you said, Chase. But you also mentioned like you're always learning something along the way. You have to be flexible. And I think we say this all the time, like your personal finances are personal, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it alone.
Right.
That's awesome.
You never
Right.
do it alone.
Yes.
And so there's always someone that you can learn from. There's always someone that could give you a new idea. There's someone that could share with you a piece of wisdom that they might have, or a connection that they might have that could grow your business X, Y, to like a certain level. So it's just about being open and flexible to whatever might come, and having fun with it.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, it doesn't have to be that serious. One of the things that was really important to me was because that annual amount that I was making and the debt that I had, the math wasn't mathing, as they say. I just realized I'm not going to be miserable about this. I'm going to learn how to have fun.
Yes.
Like, have fun with the process. But you always have to be open to learn. So mastery comes with the ability to understand how to humble yourself, and that someone possibly knows more than you do at any given point.
Amen. You actually stole the word I was going to use, as process. Because I feel as if when you master something, I compared a lot of things to sports, right? And if you look at any combat sports, when someone masters it, they have to know and learn from all angles.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm a big UFC fan, and so when someone's like a master in the cage, it's because they know the ground techniques.
Yes.
They know striking. They know grappling, right?
Yes.
When it comes to mastering your money, like, one, what can it do for me? Right? What can I do what can I do with it? How do I get it? How do I keep it? How do I have it and make it for me? Right?
Yeah.
And so when you're mastering something, I looked at it and said, what do I know about financials? I just knew, like, cool, this would hit my bank. This would pay bills. This is what I hope to have left, right? And so, when you're mastering, it's like, cool, now I know, like, holy smokes, like, investing isn't just the stock market. Investing isn't just cryptos. Now it's like, I can repurpose my money elsewhere to where, like, I'm not even going out of my way to bother anymore.
Right.
It's automatically getting drafted out of my bank, and it's paying bills. Now I don't have to spend time doing that because I mastered that portion, right? And so going through it and just really trusting the process.
Yes.
And how it's broken down, you're like, wow, like, literally it's grappling, striking, these ground techniques, right? Like, you're learning every angle of it. So that's way, in my opinion, that's how you master your money, is knowing all sides of it.
You make a really good point, because I think a lot of people sleep on the basics. There's so much clickbait and what is it, clout? Like, I'm not that cool, but like, there's so much stuff out there that is, this is how you invest and all these things. But what about having the cash flow to actually invest?
Yeah.
What about paying off the debt that's costing you more than you can actually earn in the stock market? What about going back to the basics of seeing where you're spending your money, and all of these little steps actually make a huge impact in the long run? I feel like that's not talked about on social media because it's not glamorous.
It's not sexy.
And it's not sexy. Absolutely not. But the unsexy work, the nerdy stuff, the not fun clout, whatever is out there, that's the stuff that really makes a difference in your financial future. It doesn't help you at all putting all of your money towards investments if you are struggling with living paycheck to paycheck. And it's not going to be the most glamorous thing out there, what we talk about most of the time, but you said something the other day about like 90% and 10%.
Yeah, so
say that, because that is So
if I'm not mistaken, so it's like a lot of people, and this may be I know there's a couple of 90s I use. So a lot of people, they'll work 90% of their life away to spend 10% of it. But that's because of what they're told to do, right? They're not shown a different way. In my opinion, it's like, obviously you can't work your butt off 10% and live the 90. Like, that's not realistic unless you win like the Powerball. But that's
and know how to manage the money.
How to manage
because even that.
God forbid, like, if you have debt now, you're gonna have a lot more debt. Now you can buy more stuff. But it's almost, and I'll kind of tie it into what we do, being coaches. It's like, hey, I'm willing to show you the 90% that most people won't show you, and not because you can, then you have to do it, but it's because I want to educate you on the 90% so that you can have a lot more than just 10%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to give you, say, hey, let's do this, and now you have 10% of your life left.
Right. And the other thing that you said with the 90-10 was, we teach the 90% of financial literacy when only 10% is really talked about online or by other financial professionals. Ooh, I know, it's horrible, Thomas.
He loves it.
Mm-hmm. It's horrible. And the 90% isn't glamorous, but once you master the 90%, you only need to take 10% of your time to do that.
Yeah.
Amen. That's it right there.
Mm-hmm. And that's the really cool part. If you take the time to learn the 90%, then you can make the 90% work for you, baby.
Mm-hmm. It's not talked about. And I think that's like the quote-unquote stressful part, is because a lot of people will come like, well, I just don't know about this. It's like, hey, cool, high five.
Yeah.
Me either, right?
High five.
Yeah, like, literally. I love that. Like, hey, dude, I'm glad you don't understand finances. Me either. That's why I work here. But join the team.
We talk about it though. It's like there's 4 categories, right? Like there's people where finances was always a problem.
Yeah.
But it was always talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Finance was always a problem and it was never talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And finance was never a problem, but it was never really talked about. And then finances wasn't a problem.
Right. So, and therefore, there were healthy
conversations. Yeah, of course. Like, this is how money works, my child.
Right.
But pretty much, every time we're having these discussions, a lot of people end up in the first 3 groups, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, a shame attached to the process.
Because money's unnecessarily taboo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I talk about all the time how I struggled after the $1.50 scenario for a couple years after the fact, because I was so ashamed of how I got there.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty about it and embarrassed, and I didn't know who to talk to, and I didn't want to talk to anybody about how to fix it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me much longer to fix the scenario and get on track with my finances. Whereas if I had just talked with somebody who was in a better financial position than I was in, I would have been able to make exponential moves. Mm-hmm. But we're not supposed to talk about money, right?
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Awkward.
Well, with that said, let's wrap up this little mini podcast episode here. If you could give the listeners and viewers one word of advice, what would it be?
Expectancy.
Expectancy. What do you mean?
You can hope for financial freedom or a financial goal to be hit, but if you don't expect it to be hit, you have no reason to be let down when you don't do it. Right? It's. I made the joke last night when we were driving back. It's like when we sit in a chair, we expect the chair to hold us.
Yeah.
Right? It's a chair.
Okay.
Right? When I swipe my card, I expect it to go through.
Yeah.
But that's a process that you build up. And so I don't ever want to just hope like, oh man, I hope this hope this couch holds me. No, I want to expect it. I don't want to hope for a day where I'm financially free and I can go on vacation 2 or 3 times a year. I expect that to happen.
But you're willing to do the work to get to that level
100%.
of expectancy.
100%.
All right. Steffany, you have one?
I have one word.
Or one word of advice, like a phrase.
So much knowledge.
Yes, she's like,
How
do I pick? I'm an expert.
Really, the only thing that I could think of is off the top of my head is discipline, right?
That's good.
Just because a lot of people say that word and it has a negative connotation. It's like discipline. Someone's gonna come over here like scream at you like a drill sergeant, and that is definitely not the case. But I kind of talked about it when I was telling you about my payoff journey. It was understanding that this is shaping my character, understanding that this is a process and I have to respect that it'll eventually come. And like the expectation of, I didn't expect to be debt free at X amount of time. I hope I was planning for it.
Yeah.
But when it happened, it was actually a little bit sooner than than what I had originally planned for.
So
But the reason that I got there was because I kind of let go of that final, I have to make it exactly this date. I just trusted the process, and I had the discipline to follow through, right?
Yes.
That's so good.
So I think I'll choose one that kind of goes with both. Expectancy as well as discipline. Don't really have it narrowed down to one word, so if you guys want to help me out on that one, that's fine. Be willing to do the dirty work.
Oh, yeah.
Like, roll up your sleeves.
Grit.
Grit. There you
Yeah,
go.
no,
That's the one.
Expectancy, discipline, grit. That's going to be the name of the podcast last video. That's totally fine.
I love it.
Yeah, don't expect things to just, by miraculous design, happen for you.
Yeah.
God will give us the tools, but we need to be willing to do the tools. We need to be willing to put in the work. And it's going to take some work to get to the life that you expect. It's going to take some discipline to get to that level. But you're the only one who can do it. If you're not willing to do that, no one else is going to come in and do it for you. So if you're unhappy with where you're at financially, you have two options. You can either be mad about it, or you can have some grit, discipline, and expectancy. You can put in the work and change it.
Love that.
Love it.
All right, with that said, that's a wrap. We will see y'all next time.